Remember your hotkeys.
They're live. Okay, no, I did it. All right.
I don't know. I don't know why, but that had the same vibe to me as like in an MMO. It's like, Joe, I'm gonna need you to follow calls. Uh,
Yeah, Joe, can you stop walking in the fucking fire?
I, this is the quickest way for pathing. All right.
I just want you to understand real quick. I just want to make sure we're on the same page about this. The giant red circles on the ground, you're not supposed to stand in those.
Wait, I thought those were my Reaper AoE.
I I thought
Y'all
they
are
were.
nerds?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to whatever this bullshit is. Um, as at the conclusion of our intelligence season, we decided that Q&A for each other and for audience as well who wish to ask about it is it's kind of what we're gonna be doing. A little freeform. We'll go by arc. I'll try and unsuccessfully keep us on track. Um, but I will try and do so, and players can ask each other questions and stuff like that. But I suppose going around, we should probably do our last round for the season, our little promos.
Oh, hello. My name is Lucas Santana. You can usually find me over on twitch.tv/rule of lore on Friday evenings, 6 p.m. Pacific time for Ramblemancy, our roundtable style talk show where we talk about all kinds of nerdy things. We used to like primarily be with a single topic, and then the conversation goes where it goes from there. But these days we sort of skip that first part. So it's I mean, listen.
No one knows where it goes. The moment you go live, I have no idea where the fuck you people are going.
The reality here is that when you put three neurodivergent people into the same like stream, it's not like the conversation is going to go nowhere. It's going to happen anyway.
Oh yeah, it goes somewhere.
So yeah,
It's like
we're also
lightning
currently
tracks
working
down.
on our we're also currently working on our second season of Tomorrow is Dead, our zombie survival actual play, but currently on a filming hiatus because one person has family in town and the other person is on their honeymoon. So, yeah. But we'll be probably aiming to start that up in October-ish, just in time for spooky season. Okay, that's it. I'm going to stop talking now.
Hi, I'm. You go first.
Sure, sorry.
You go for it.
One of these days we'll figure out an order for all this.
One of these days we'll roll initiative for self promos.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Doesn't it make more sense to just go by Discord order?
Listen.
I mean,
If by Discord order, then I'd always be last.
Gotta change it up every now and again.
I like the initiative idea for some reason. I think that's fun. But
For the next season.
Hi there, I am Silver Sugar, aka Risa, and I apologize for my mic quality this episode. My computer's in the shop, so if any of y'all need art commissions or anything like that, please hit me up. Repairing a computer is expensive. But that's all I got right now.
Hi, I'm Slay. I'm a DTRPG performer. You can find me on Twitter at Sons of Warvan. That's pretty much it. And it will always be Twitter, as I will keep saying to the day I die.
Or the day that it does.
I was just gonna say.
I said what I said.
And also, she is going to be a little late, but you can always find Little Legend as well on all the platforms using their handle as Little Legend, generally on X or any of those other sites, Tumblr. They actually threw, at least in our Discord, and I think in Risa's Discord as well, the art kind of Tumblr link, I think.
It's so cute. Make sure you guys commission her. She severely underprices. Like, get in on that while you can.
Before she learns to price With self-respect.
Oh my god.
Anyways, but yeah, you can find them anywhere along that line, and then I'll go into my round of stuff. To start with, Rune and Relic will not be dead as a Twitch channel while we work on the second season. I have a couple of have a few things that I'm working on that might come up during, one-shotty stuff that might show up here and there. I have to, and maybe something for season 2, but I have to send a Discord message to the GM for another Star Trek Adventures game, and if we can get it, maybe Season 2. This is a huge maybe, but maybe Season 2, we can get a crossover between the two streams. But with that, then there is January. That should be around when Star Trek Intelligence Season 2. I'm going to say, just because I know I say the 6th is the optimal, but I'm just going to go for the week following that, because I know how starting up another season of a TTRPG thing goes, and it never goes the way you want it to. Ever. But with that being the case, let's see, following after that, we have, additionally in January, I'm doing something that I am going to regret, which is the, Twitch Plays D&D, which that's gonna be its own little disaster. What else? The Occult Chronicles. That is, we did our session 0. Just for a moment here, 1 second. For session 0, we did that not that long ago, and so we will be recording that soon-ish, sometime in October. I think it's the 8th. That's when everyone is available to do that, and we should be able to get that all out of the way. And then, something that I have thought about, and I think that'll be a goal for Season 2, is if we can get to our Twitch channel to that 50 follower mark, I will have us run a Lower Decks 2-shot. Which,
Oh my god, please. I want that so bad.
which that's a goal that you guys can help get moving if you want that to happen. Is there any other announcements that I need to do currently? Not currently, but there will be things going down the pipeline that might be an announcement. Additionally, finally next year, there is something else that'll be adding to it, but we have to see first what timelines look like, and also if my brain will have short-circuited by then. But I suppose we're done talking about that, and we can just move into the Q&A. And so we're just going to throw something up here as we get that all situated, and try to... we'll be jumping back into the Q&A in just a moment. But I figured, might as well have the intro play one more time this season, right?
I didn't
Okay,
know
there
my
we go.
headphones even had a mic.
Oh, that's what was happening. Okay. Yeah.
It was picking up the wrong mic.
New
Surprise
discoveries every
microphone.
day.
Oh, fun.
But
And
yeah.
really, isn't that what Star Trek is all about?
Yeah. Right. Good thing to come back in, y'all. So this is gonna be its own little freeform thing. I'll be going by arcs mostly to try and keep us a little on track, but if Ramblemancy over at Rule of Lore has taught us anything, that will not be the case for very long. I will try, I will fail, but I will try.
Oh, wait. Tracks? I forgot to bring those.
Fuck. So...
I certainly didn't bring anything to nail them down, so...
You try
Well-
losing that fucking train of thought, but you are on time on that station.
Shit. Okay. Well, there you go, everyone. That's what. Okay, so here's how this is gonna work a little bit. It's Q&A for the cast and asking each other questions, obviously. But you all in the Twitch chat can ask questions as well, and we can kind of move along and just have little bits of topics here and there. But I think starting off, why don't we start off strong? Because this is kind of session 0-ish in terms of questions. A little bit, not like a ton, but it's enough to really kind of dive into it. So why not? So this is also the person I may have to send a Discord message to, but another Star Trek Adventures actual play GM of the Great Barrier asked, this is a question for all the players, and maybe the GM in certain instances. What informs your general approach to building a character? Do you set out with a particular story in mind, or do you start with the general role and or class and let the story flow from there?
Man.
Imagine planning.
Imagine planning.
I usually
Imagining.
I usually decide what would be fun to play, and then I just go from there. Like what kind of class, what kind of character would be fun to play, and then usually like the backstory comes up a little bit later. I usually do the backstory last. I like to get the mechanics out of the way first.
So you do the Marisha Ray build inside outwards then.
Basically, yeah. I mean, I made Tate good at what they do, and then decided what kind of person Tate was after that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I first of all, in general, I take a similar approach to like character creation, actually, and I'm glad that you said that because you're one of the only people, Slay, that I've ever like come across who also does that, does mechanics first approach to creating characters. That's what I do too. As opposed to like a backstory or / personality first. But I gotta say, with Alec, it was a little different because of the Star Trek life path system. You're sort of building the character's backstory while you are also building the mechanics in a lot of ways, and that kind of it was a little bit both in my case. I was sort of doing a little bit of the Alec's personality came across as I was building him. Yeah. Although I did a little bit start with a basic concept, which was the closest thing to a Starfleet washout. And then I've just sort of built from there. But yeah.
Makes sense.
Kind of similar to what Lucas said. I tend to go with like an archetype and a vague idea for a mechanical style that I want to play for a particular campaign. And then if I have a character that already fits it pretty well, sometimes I'll retool them like I did for Dr. Atherton. Sometimes I'll just make an entirely new character starting with the archetype and the mechanics that I want.
Sometimes
And then they become
go.
their own character from there.
Sometimes I base their backstory on characters I know from different media. Like Tate's based off of Maya from Station.
Always fun.
Maya from Station 19. If anyone's seen Station 19, I based their backstory on Maya's.
Okay.
I don't actually know what that is.
I
Look it up. It's interesting.
well, it's interesting, but like with I don't know mechanics. Like I have to ask people to help me with mechanics because I am dumb. But I really like making characters just in general. So it starts with like a basic idea of kind of okay, I want to make a woman who does this. And then what I do is I go to Picrew. Pick like
Hell yeah.
a few different Picrews and start making like a base for a character. Like if I don't have a like anything specific in mind, which I didn't really have for Mira, I just start building kind of what I see, and what I built, I kind of give uh the image that I like the most. I kind of give her the name, I give her the personality, and I saw a tough woman with like one dark eye and blue freckles and blonde hair, and I was like, yeah, this is a tough woman who um is like who's seen things and bloody da all that stuff, and from there on I kind of just add a bit of personality to each part, and from then I then start building my shit. I was never like a person who does all the min-maxing, uh oh, if I had this, she's gonna be able to do this stuff. Yeah, that's mostly something that I would ask my friend for help for, and they would be like, okay, so listen, if you want to do this, you gotta have this. Like, okay, yeah, you're right, you're definitely correct. I had no idea. So that's how I do things. I'm more of a creative
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that.
type.
People have different approaches to building characters for sure. I mean, I can do either or. It kind of depends on how I feel like unfolding like certain characters, and sometimes certain characters, if you blend certain mechanics, the dice rolls do not give a shit about you anyways. So you can roll with advantage. Truly, and maybe it's just the whole GM coast thing, but like it's also just like searching. If you're a GM, you generally, well, not in the case of Star Trek Adventures, but usually in terms of like D&D, you're rolling more as a GM than you are as a player. So you're like looking to see like more consistency, and you are getting more consistency, just in the opposite direction. Um,
Uh, for me, Star Trek was a little bit different in that I did not know what sort of player I wanted to be for this. I definitely needed to see what everybody else was doing, which turned out to be a good thing because we had enough doctors that could be going off the rails. So that was actually my original plan with Kavai when I put her in
Should have joined the
sciences. So
squad.
yeah, I was like, yeah, no, I need to do something different with her, and I pivoted real hard. But I always start with art. Um, that's where 99.9% of all of my characters come from, is just me randomly drawing, coming up with someone who is like, oh, I guess this is my character now, not an adopt. Okay. What do I do with you? Who are you?
Fucking mode.
Usually I'd go name first. Kavai was a little bit different. I had her name like pretty late on in development. And I'll probably end up talking more about that later. But I had an original design with her as a completely like different race, still green, but she was more like lizardy. But then I learned that we had some stipulations for like not homebrewing stuff. necessarily. So I was like, okay, we'll pivot from there. And then I actually almost made her Betazoid. So I was torn down to the last possible second on what I wanted to do with this game.
That's
and
really interesting because Lucas actually was considering
Yeah,
Betazoid
I
as
was-
well.
That
but
was
not
my
for
first
Alec.
Star Trek.
It was for a different character concept, because this was from when Joe and I first talked. And I can get into that more later. But yeah, I also considered Betazoid first.
I was very, very torn on it because I am actually like terrified at the idea of Betazoids. So I was like, okay, I should lean into something like that. And like I wanna like I went into this game going, okay, I don't like them in the show, so let me try to like them and figure out what my problem is with them and go from there. And then Kavai sort of started getting in my head, and I was like, okay, well, I think I did roll for it. I was at the very last possible second with her, and I was like, okay, I'm either going with the Orions, who I know very little about and do want to explore. And this is like slightly before games, and it was before I'd watched Lower Decks. And I rolled for it, landed on that, and I was like, cool, I like the green aesthetic anyway. And it ended up being fun. And I knew early on I always wanted to be like Vulcan because I love them. Yeah, this was a very, very different process for me than I normally make characters, but I had a lot of fun with it.
Well, it's because Star Trek Adventures encourages a different like character making process than typical RPGs. I feel like so.
Yeah.
Normally, all my other characters tend to like more or less be fully formed the moment they get named, and then they live rent free in my brain.
I think Lucas and I talked about it doing a one-on-one meet. I think you had said like Star Trek Adventures does something that you wish that certain RPGs did a little more often, where its mechanics would kind of just tell you how it wants to be played.
Yeah, it does, but it also and going even further than that, like the mechanics are intimately bound up in the RP. Like you can't separate them in Star Trek Adventures, because like especially with like the values system, like the whole like the values and stuff like that like tells you so much. Yeah. It tells you so much about what your character is going to be like, because it doesn't tell you, it's not extensive. Like I know in D&D there's the whole like in Xanathars there's that whole like, you know, there's so many tables and things like that for rolling for backstory stuff, and those will give you a good skeleton, but it's like the skeleton is, I sometimes find if it works great in D&D if you're doing those, and it's like this, you're doing like a over the top high fantasy, just kind of gonzo everything goes kind of kitchen sink approach to D&D, and that's fine. But I feel like if you're doing anything a little bit more grounded than that, then it becomes too much. And I feel like the Star Trek Adventures values system gives you just enough to kind of get a snapshot of who your character is, and then you can start building out from that. Like you create a seed basically for your character, and it just sort of grows from there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The traits, values, and everything else like that for 5e at least literally has no impact on the game.
No,
so that's
not at
also
all.
like
It
like
is
the fact that values actually affect the game in Star Trek is
Yeah.
way
I
nicer.
love this system so much, and there are absolutely bits and pieces, including like values, that I am absolutely taking with me into future games from now on.
Yeah. Ooh, this is not. What if? Hold on, I'm having a DM / designer brain idea. Imagine like the traits in D&D, but instead of like you could call on them once per game to get inspiration.
I
Hmm.
yes,
Oh my God.
yes, and I love this.
I
I'm
would
gonna
definitely
have to sit.
play test that idea for you.
I know. I'm gonna have to sit and think about this now. I just had this idea right now, but I'm gonna have to sit and think about that.
All right.
Huh.
Well, Lucas is gonna dissociate at the screen for a moment.
Yeah, I kind of
Real
went.
quick, yeah.
Sorry, go for it.
No. I'm just commenting.
Yeah, I kind of went like pretty in depth with Tate. Oh, kind of went pretty in depth with Tate. Like, I know I have meanings for all for their name and all of their past lives' name,
Oh,
and it's
that's gonna be a fun list. I can't wait to learn more.
yeah.
It might come up.
I don't.
I'm happy to tell you them now if you want me to.
No, I don't want to know.
Nah, no.
I even
Me
have
too,
the
but I
mean,
don't.
I even know have the meaning for the home symbiote's name.
I guess it depends on if you're planning on keeping Tate in season 2.
I am planning on keeping Tate in
Yeah.
season 2, but this
Then don't tell us.
I don't think it reveals too much, but okay.
No, I want that in game. I want that in game.
It'll
Well,
be.
you're not gonna get it in game because it's just the meaning of the names.
I don't know. You'd be surprised how often name meanings come up. I that's why I'm holding.
No, I
back
mean I got the I found words and then I respelled
Okay,
them to make them look
I
different.
see. I see what you mean now.
I found words and then I changed them a little bit and to make them look like names. Like Tate
Oh,
May was
gotcha.
actually one word. Tate May.
Okay. Let's see here.
What's it mean?
One second.
I know for mine, anyone who knows like or looks up any sort of Vulcan stuff, like her name has a meaning and it's very specific. And I don't know. I'll leave that for other people to look up if they want.
Fun
Yeah.
fact, Clarice's name, before I had to change it for a sci-fi setting, was Clarice Voidblood. When she
Ooh.
was a undead apothecary in her original setting.
Love that.
Epic. Fun
So
fact:
Tate
every name I think out is basically just okay. The first name that comes to my mind. Now change it. Now add letters. Perfect. Slap it on. Who cares if everyone's gonna write Mira with I? This is the incorrect way to write name. I would be a fucking horrible parent, honestly. Like,
What are we naming this
My-
kid? You see these fridge magnet letters? Just slap them against the fucking front of
God.
the door.
This
There we go.
I mean,
just reminds
I
me.
know him.
So insulted already.
exactly. This is like me rolling the dice in my head. Just
God,
my kid
this-
would be bullied as hell.
You know that
I-
Mira spelled like that is an actual name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Like people name
No, it absolutely is.
kids after fucking numbers. So, yeah, I'm just saying this is just out of nowhere name. It came to my mind in a dream and I used it.
It's a fun name. It rolls off the tongue. Mira
This
Yeah,
just
her-
reminds me.
Her surname has 2 double letters, so have fun with it.
This just
So-
reminds me of how, like, in a game that I was playing with forever ago, my my GM did one of those classic GM things where he came up with a name but didn't say it out loud beforehand.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
And it wasn't anything bad, but like it was an elvish name, but it basically ended up being pronounced like Eric. And then we proceeded to spend the next like half an hour just creating different ways of spelling the name Eric. My favorite one was just Rick, but pronounced Eric.
Makes
So-
me
Oh my
sorry.
god.
Reminds me of the story that I don't know. Did I read it? Did I listen? Did I hear it from like I don't know some RPG forum about DM for some fucking reason accidentally calling one of their NPCs Johnny Two Dicks. So
Oh, that is unfortunate.
it could always be one.
See, this is a lesson to all GMs or people who want to GM. it is important, even if it's the quiet, just mouthing it to yourself. Say the name. Just check. It
Yes.
prevents so many horrible.
And a Google search to make sure it's not like a, well-known serial killer or whatever. That's totally happened to me before.
Or
It's
one of your
arguably
friends'
more.
names.
Oh
It's
my god,
arguably more
really?
important
Oh,
for writers because the chances of you
Yeah.
saying it out loud before somebody reads it are much less.
There's a
You know
motorcycle
the
outside just
peak
revving its
naming,
engine for
like
no
the
fucking reason. Okay, that's annoying.
like the peak naming. That's
Probably
the
Johnny Two
best
Dicks.
name I've ever heard, ever read in any media. There is a book slash animated show which is called Troll Hunters. One of the characters' name, who is like a giant troll, his or her name in the book, is Arg.
Wow.
Incredible.
Literally spelled that way. AARGH, something
I
like
think
that.
I had a player
It's
name their
Um,
character
best
that
name in
in one of my games.
Oh my
Are they a
god.
pirate?
Nope, they were a half-orc gunslinger.
Almost there.
Also, I know that
So close.
Jaloran was like a character that Lynn made way before this, but I'm curious if you have, Lynn, anything about like how you made the character.
Hmm. It was. I did make her along the lines of a reskin of a fanfic that I did like years ago. I started with first version of the character in Star Trek Online, and then I tweaked it from there to um, fit the setting for Shield of Tomorrow, and then later Clear Skies, and now Star Trek Intelligence. So she's gone through a number of different iterations, but I had a feel for the character, and then going through the character creator for Star Trek Adventures, and it helped me tweak more of what she's like and some of her stronger aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit! I didn't realize that you had her as far back as Shield of Tomorrow. I didn't realize
Oh, yeah.
that. For some reason, I thought it was like, oh man. For some reason, I thought that it was like more of a Clear Skies era sort of thing. But wow, that's awesome.
I feel like Jaloran was very, very active in the Clear Skies RP era for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
she was definitely there beforehand.
Yes.
Damn.
Before, GNS made some unfortunate decisions.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It still hurts my feelings every time I think about it.
Yeah.
The very first the iteration of Jaloran during Shield of Tomorrow was actually half Bajoran, half Betazoid.
Oh, cool.
And she changed
okay, wait.
to she changed to human during Clear Skies.
I have a follow-up question then in that case, because I didn't realize that there was so much history with the character, but like what is it like playing in this campaign as like a character with so much history that probably isn't going to be relevant to this immediate like iteration of the character, but I'm sure it informs, right? Like yeah.
Oh yeah.
I guess
Absolutely.
I can't think of a better way to phrase that question, but yeah.
Yeah, she's got a lot of history following her, and I try to lean into that a little bit as well. Like she because there's so much behind her, she gets stuck in a rut a little more easily, and she loses sight of the bigger picture at times, kind of like during the mission with the Ross.
Which we'll get to there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But like it's certainly been interesting playing around with that and having that history behind her.
I kind of have a follow-up as well. When did Chakotay come into the picture for that in terms of like building backstory elements out?
During Clear Skies.
Okay.
Let's see, what was...
Because it's like I wanted to create in order to separate her from what happened with Shield of Tomorrow. That was part of that tweaking between Shield of Tomorrow and Clear Skies. And create enough difference between the two characters that they are distinct. And with Clear Skies, there were some connections to other series being made, and that was a deliberate attempt to tie Voyager to Clear Skies in some way.
Cool.
Let's see.
You were saying something, Joe?
Yeah, I was gonna say too with like Jaloran too, because it was there was a lot of stuff going on while I was running Star Trek Horizons and building into Star Trek Intelligence, because I was setting all that stuff up, and there were plenty of discussions just over Discord between Lynn and myself, like, okay, so what is like Jaloran's preference for being a commander and things like that, or being approached to being that, and essentially the building that you guys are in, I'd say Lynn did about 30% of the whole like process for designing it, because Jaloran's very particular about what she wants in certain aspects. But I think what we'll do is we will flip over to the first arc, which was the Persons of Interest arc, which I enjoy because as starting out a new Star Trek Adventures games, particularly one that's kind of slightly, adjacent to where Clear Skies was, and like a little bit following afterwards, because Clear Skies has ended, and like Jaloran still is also one of those characters that has a lot more to tell and to bring in. So it's like intelligence kind of is in the background. So let's do that. So Lynn and I started discussing that. But the whole persons of interest thing, it has like 3 separate meanings within that arc. But primarily, I felt like I would be doing a disservice to not title the first like 3 episodes the Persons of Interest arc like that, because I feel like I would be doing Delev a disservice if I didn't title the first episode into such a violent pun. But with the Persons of Interest arc, that's kind of where we got to meet everyone, and it was really fascinating. And to those in the chat here, you can ask questions as well, and I'll get to them if I can find the time and such. But one, I guess, what is the best way to describe this stuff? I suppose the best thing to ask is, right out of the gate, when you started playing these characters, were you caught off guard by anything your characters did or discovered about your characters right out of the gate?
Yes, every decision constantly. God damn it.
In fairness, that was probably Kavai's experience as well.
Oh, God. Session 0 threw me off for a loop and threw my life onto a loop. I was unintentionally very method acting with her. Fun fact for everybody in the cast, I started developing some health problems very early on in our season. I almost dropped the game a few times. Yeah, I ended up
believe
having...
we talked about it after game one night.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep most of it private, but I'll tell the rest of the cast off stream. But it got pretty bad, and I started not sleeping. So I had to... Originally, I was just gonna make Kavai someone who just never slept. and make her a complete workaholic. She's still a workaholic, and I still kind of lean into how she plays off that way, but it started becoming like way too real, way too, there's no separation between life and game. So I needed to like pull back from that. And so she started making other decisions as sort of quote unquote quirks. And then she started making decisions that I was like, oh, honey, stop breaking into shit. And then it changed the entire trajectory of how I wanted to play her and how I wanted to build her. Like, none of her stuff is in hacking. I just wanted to make her a computer nerd. But, like, I didn't want to lean into that either. So it was fun that I had her Orion heritage to back up with that. It kind of all ended up working out, but good lord, those first couple weeks were real rough for me.
Oh yeah.
That's really heavy. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you stuck around, though.
Yeah, no, I'm so
Are you
glad.
feeling better now?
I love this group so much. I still got some health issues, but I'm sleeping again, which is great. I mean, sort of. I don't need to go into it.
Actually, speaking of kind of winning it, the first session, kind of the same with Mira. I was still trying to figure out how she talks and the way she acts and reacts when we were on session 0, basically. So, when I first kind of like pretended that I replaced my first swear word with something more PG, I was like, do you want to do it every time? And then I kept forgetting to do it.
It was.
I was like, yeah, I found that angle. I found the little spice that's gonna make them love her, and then I just forgot about it.
And yet
entirely.
somehow she ended up being endearing anyways.
I love her. No, I think that's cool. I really enjoy her attitude towards everything. It's great.
It's very. I don't want to say it's like single-minded, but it's very like goal-orientated, I guess I would say. To where it's more like, here's the goal, here I am, straight line. There's no need to duck or weave, just go straight.
I think it's refreshing. It's definitely a dynamic we need.
I
was like just good. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You say your piece.
Well, I was only gonna say that, like, I feel like we established very early on the dynamic of this whole group was like the weirdos and misfits, and I feel like that has continued on throughout the whole season.
It's
I don't know what you're talking about. Tate's completely normal.
The fuck you are?
We've just changed shades of weirdos and misfits throughout
I
the
just really
season.
like playing characters who. Oh, oh yeah, definitely.
I think one of the most interesting things to come out of like the first whole like session 0 and the first like arc is something that is so common in Star Trek, which is transporters and space travel, and learning that Kavai and Mira kind of hate both of that is beyond bewildering and just fascinating to me.
Yeah, I was surprised Kavai ended up not liking it. It was one of those things that I was like, I have a feeling she wouldn't, but let me just roll, and then my dice betrayed me. But also it serves for the better story because it really fits in with her whole backstory. And I love this game.
It's also just interesting too, where Kavai is one of those characters to where like older century, like 22nd century, where it was all shuttles, you'd probably be okay with that for the most part. But what were you gonna say, Little?
Yeah, I was just like Mira is just the person who she likes trying new things. Obviously, she just adores new experiences, but she kind of hates surprises. It's a trait that I actually also have. It's like, yeah, it's cool if I know where when I am getting onto that roller coaster, but if that roller coaster goes like in those TikTok videos where a guy would be like, "Oh, wait, something is wrong with the belt. Whoopsie daisy! Now the roller
I would
coaster is
kill
going
that
bye
person. I
bye."
would not be okay with
I
that.
would. Oh yeah, I would fucking when I get off that thing, I would just I don't know the things I would do to his body, the unrecognizable, absolute horrors that he will witness. Because it's genuinely a fucked up thing to do, and that's exactly how Mira kind of took the whole situation. Like, here we go! Oh fuck!
Mm-hmm.
That's why she didn't hate it specifically. She just like hated the fact that it was sudden and that people were trying to make her just accept the sudden thing that happened. It's like, yeah, that's normal. That's okay. It's like, no, the fuck is it? What the fuck it is?
Yeah. Also, the bold move of landing in the center of a Diderotix warbird. That's always a choice. I mean, they can't shoot at you, but
I would like to point out that con is Tate's second best stat, not their best stat.
Terrifying.
I can't wait because I really hope it happens at least once in season 2 where your con rolls betray you.
I wanted to betray me so bad, but they won't. They will never betray me.
Well, don't say
I
never.
say that. I say that hoping it happens. I want
Was that
complication
joke?
of
The risk
con
was
roll.
calculated, but we're bad in math.
That goes in the opposite direction of the intention.
Control rolls are really good for Tate, but they can also be really bad because my complication range is increased for control rolls.
Ooh.
So if I roll like a 7, if I roll on control, if I roll a 17 or higher, that's a complication, I believe. 17 or 18. I have to check the rules again.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I know. So but I get
fun.
automatic success on control rolls, so it's like a gambling thing. And so far controls have been good for me, but I'm waiting to get that complication. I'm waiting so hard. I got close once. I got a 16 once. I'm like, you coward.
You
But,
You just take your dice, like look at it directly, like near your face, like you fucking coward.
The dice
You
running
bitch.
right up to the edge and then blinking.
it was on one of my control command rolls, which means that
Just
16 still works.
didn't want to win that game of chicken. Clearly.
On the subject of like things that came out of that first arc that I was sort of surprised. I think I was a little bit surprised. Like I knew Alec had a complicated relationship with authority. I just didn't realize, like I didn't expect it to like run right up to the line of insubordination like it did in that like and I think one of the moments that I think exemplifies that for me is just like after getting off the call with Captain Tyler and just the like permission to speak freely. I hate that guy. Like that was, I think,
That is probably one of my favorite moments. It's just like, yes,
That was funny.
so good.
I mean, Captain Tyler was designed to be a character that is good at what he does. He is not. He's pretty intolerable to be around, though.
I feel like that's the vast majority of
he's like
Jeffrey Dean
shit.
Morgan's characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of those like on paper fun, but in reality, that's a shit person.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I think that was the thing that surprised me. I knew because of like some of Alex's history in Starfleet, and like I know this came up in conversations with Jaloran a few times where like um Alex's previous commanding officers just kind of didn't know what to do with an officer who didn't already have like a direction, and saw uh a lot of Alex mistook Alex's lack of direction for a lack of interest or motivation, and just kind of like passed him over a lot. And I know that I knew going in that Alec had like a lot of complicated issues with authority, but not I didn't expect those to come out in any sort of like insubordinate ways. So that kind of surprised me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised with how tolerant Tate was of other people's bullshit in the beginning. Because Tate kind of judges people, but based on their mother.
That's
Like
okay.
how much I think Tate has at least had a bit of a tolerance for people, especially like that captain guy, because that's kind of how their mother was, very good at their job but not necessarily good to be around. So Tate was fine with that guy, because to Tate that was normal.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. That's kind of. I mean, there's a little bit to go over with the persons of interest, but that's kind of what I was more interested in. Is just like the general startup of it, because there's a whole kind of interesting mission, but that was kind of a lot of intelligence. A lot of the stuff has been a little bit in the backdrop. Because the mission isn't necessarily, I mean, that's a part of it, but it's not exactly the focal point. It's more about the characters, because that's the most important aspect of any TTRPG. Is as important as the story is only as effective as the characters that inhabit that story. So, didn't really, that was more of an introductory mission, and it did result in all of you getting rid of a fairly, or at least temporarily, a member of the Tel Shiar leadership, which is something.
On the subject of characters in the first arc, though, what I will say, I really appreciated having Captain Tyler set up as this kind of like straw man bad guy, and then all of a sudden Romulans. Like that was, I think, one of my favorite parts of that arc.
Mm-hmm. You just had to, can't be predictable. That'd be ridiculous. Let's see here. Right. We could go over the one standalone. That one's not that important though. But for the stuff that kind of begins to set things into motion a little bit, which will probably come up a lot more in season 2. But the lockdown arc, which is that two-parter in that extra spatial dimensional area with the all of that, and where the Hypatia really takes some damage and does incur a crewman fatality. That right there, I mean,
So much.
yeah, that,
What?
which I guess we got to see a little bit of the Hypatia in the first arc, but truly you get to see a little bit of the Hypatia a little bit more in the second one, because she's an unassuming little ship. She's not a Galaxy class, she's not a Sovereign, she's not a Luna, she's a Nova class, which, for those of you who have seen Star Trek Voyager, know that Nova class, on the surface, they do their job, and not much further. But with a few intelligence-based modifications, I believe we talked about for this, Lynn, I think we said, I think we did warp field modifications, because I know the typical Nova can only hit warp 8.2, and I think I think the Hypatia, if we remember discussing correctly, I think if push comes to shove, she can hit warp 9. I don't remember
No.
specifically. Maybe.
No, that's not the direction we went with
Oh,
the Hypatia.
no, right. The lower decks, not the less decks, more stuff inside. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
something else.
Yep.
But which also with
Less
more
decks, more
spa-
packs.
So just for
My humor is random, just like
no, your humor is perfectly timed. Just so everyone tuning into stream here, we've determined that Legend is Zach Oyama of the group. Just perfectly timed one-liners.
Hell.
But
Yeah,
I will take that as a badge of honor and wear it
good,
You should.
every future session. Yeah.
But yeah,
Anyway, if you want
Got
low
it, we-
budget Russian Zach Oyama in your streams, call this number.
It's Zach Oyama, but Russian and affordable.
That should be like in your
for Lint from your
that-
pocket.
oh my
that should
fucking
be in your intros from now on.
Off.
Legend affordable Zach Oyama.
god! Oh my god!
No.
Well, that might have to go on a t-shirt sometime in the
Low
future.
budget Zach Oyama.
But anyways, with the lockdown arc, we got to see a little bit more of how individuals act under a more crisis-based situation. So,
we with the Hypatia we did advanced sensor suites, and she's got some of the Borg tech and the neuropacks, like the Voyager.
oh,
That's
you know
where
what?
we- that's
Vessel,
the direction we
You
went.
know what, Vessel? I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about if the
know about
Hypatia
the
gets
Borg.
blasted out of the deep
Yes,
space.
the backup.
Yep.
The backup vessel. Yeah.
This is the first time hearing of a backup vessel.
It's for what happens when you finally fail your role.
Yes.
We won't survive if I fail my roll. We won't survive if I fail my roll. That's gonna be a TPK.
When you finally fuck up.
I mean, but yeah.
Wait, what do you think is going to happen if you fail your roll? Oops, I accidentally detonated the warp core.
No, it's just usually when I make piloting rolls, it's in ridiculous circumstances that could get us killed.
That's 100% fair. Good point.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous. Like I drove through I flew through a
can't-
dimension. I flew between warp engines.
That's so
I
fucking
did
cool.
insane shit.
Oh my god.
God, I
Taste an
forgot
insane
the-
flyer.
fun.
The worst result of a failed roll I ever had was a guy dying from drinking too much alcohol. He rolled. It's a different, absolutely different campaign, absolutely different system. But the guy rolled natural one while drinking, and he fucking overdosed on alcohol somehow.
Natural one, and you died of alcohol poisoning. That
Wow.
is a hell of a way to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Harvard's bring
It was
bacon
wild,
on.
but it was funny as hell.
Anyways, yeah, so the lockdown arc where everyone's kind of separated initially, and that gets to showcase something that a lot of people have the misconception of with like Nova class vessels and smaller vessels, is with like turbo lifts and stuff, you have to use Jeffries tubes and like laddering systems and stuff like that, and a lot of people seem to forget this in Star Trek, but a small vessel does not mean like small amount of space to cover. It can be a lot of space. But during the whole like I guess a question I have for all of you is, now that I've kind of revealed that this will probably be a consistent primary antagonist that all of you will have to deal with, what are thoughts or interesting theories that you have on the extra spatial / dimensional beings from TNG's Schism being your primary entities of antagonism.
I want to touch him so bad. I want to touch him. I want to touch him. I just want to talk.
Weird space shit.
They are so creepy.
Immediately, I knew Silver. The way Silver would react, I was like, "Yeah, Silver's gonna go nuts."
I gotta rewatch
Knowing
that
their
episode. I don't even like have a full picture in my head of what these guys look like. I just know that I want to get them. I want to. Okay, I don't know if this is revealing too much and like spoilers for like Critical Role season 2 maybe. If anybody doesn't want to hear anything about that, but like I just want to pull a Caduceus and be like, empathy, motherfuckers.
I know
I don't know.
exactly what part you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
yeah, no, I get it.
I tend not to do a whole lot of like when I'm a player. I tend not to do a whole lot of wild speculation, mainly because it's very similar to what I do normally as a GM, anyway. So I tend to just it's no thoughts, only vibes when it comes to the future in TTRPG campaigns for me. So
I've seen so much stuff go sideways that I'm very much the same way. It's like I'm not going to think too hard about this. I'm not going to speculate. I might have a hunch here and there from time to time, but I don't like voicing it because I know it's going to go sideways the minute I try to voice it.
Oh yeah, that's a big mood. I've seen way too many plans. Just like the moment you try to come up with something, the rules just betray you. So, oh man.
Sometimes it's not even the roles though that betray you. Sometimes it's just the situation alternates to the point where it's like, well, that plan is out the fucking window now.
you know, in all honesty, I have a feeling that my reluctance to speculate is tied to the fact that in my home game, I have a player that we've been playing together in like the same group, but now in two separate campaigns. That for like 7 years now, not all the way through because there were a couple of years where we took off because of Panini, but we've been playing for like 7 years together, and without fail, every single time he guesses my plot twists like months ahead of time. But he does it in a very joking way. Like he says it like it's a joke, offhandedly. Like that. Can't. This isn't the real answer. But what if wouldn't it be funny if it was this? And I'm just sitting there, and every single.
Worse. Otherwise, it just means that you're really good at seeding out.
No, absolutely. No, and I don't take offense to it, but it is very funny to me that every single time, without fail, the same player will always guess ahead of time in the same way. And I think maybe it has like colored the way that I approach things as a player, so now I just don't ever speculate about anything.
that makes sense.
So, yeah.
I think in this lockdown, we also got to see different facets of where people kind of behave in situations like this. Because I mean, most of that arc, I think Shaloran stayed mostly on the bridge. I think it might have been the whole time, except maybe the ready room once or twice.
Yep.
But it was kind of that weird, I guess, submarine type feel to where like you don't dare really breathe too loud, just kind of waiting. And then also I think that enforced that incident enforced Alec a little bit further into like, yeah, people need combat training because
Yeah. I honestly, I think for me the biggest thing character wise that came out of that arc for Alec, I feel like at early on in the like what were we calling it? Session 0? Not Session 0, Episode 0? Is that what we called it?
Episode 0, Moving Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there was like a very early like moment between Alec and Mira, where Alec was like recognizing Mira's like discomfort in this like new environment, basically, and like not really sure how to act. And Alec was like, "Oh man, I understand the like the this dynamic of not really feeling like you fit the Starfleet mold," and like reached out to her early on. But I feel like throughout the course of the season there was like a good like kind of like relationship that grew between the two of them. And but I think the key pivotal moment for that was in the lockdown arc, where like Alec was injured and like Mira was the one who like basically like got him back on his feet and then helped him get back to the bridge or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I feel like that was like a good like the early like that was like the tipping point, I think, for like Alec and Mira's friendship. And so
It's
for
so
me, I
good.
think that
So much fun
Yeah.
to watch, guys.
Yeah, it was really actually fun to play it as well. Absolutely loved it. The way that,
Yeah.
like, I mean, even before they already were kind of on the same wave, like relationship wise, emotional wise, they were like, yeah, you're cool, you're pretty neat. Like, Mira thought that he was like a friendly guy and pretty accepting, so that was really nice. But then it was like, oh yeah, now they got inside jokes. Now they're actual friends.
yeah.
We all like pancakes.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm gonna have to ask my sister to perhaps do a little bit of digital art, and I might just have to make my own custom T-shirt with like a Star Trek Delta with that phrase and a stack of pancakes. Um,
oh my god.
but yeah, that was definitely a pivotal moment for their like working relationship, and also it kind of the conversation that followed during that lockdown arc. It's like that kind of tip. Yeah, you are right. It's that tipping point and now like subsequently following after that, every like conversation they've had since is kind of like closer to like siblings bullying each other.
Yeah. I feel like one of my favorite things about this season has been like any sort of like bantery moments with Alec and Mira, because I feel like both of them have the same tendency when stressed out is to just joke about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mira loses all the filters when she is stressed out. She's also like she does act nervous. She doesn't know how to hide her stress when she's not in like a life or death situation. And she kind of becomes like really restless, but she also tries to joke it out because you know a tall, muscular woman who is like shaking in stress. You don't want her to be silent. You definitely don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's too intimidating.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna get us to at least the equivalent to what a mid-season finale was before we will end up on break, because I want us to get into like the deeper like stuff towards it, because the last half really like puts characters through its own challenges, I feel like. Let's see. So the next arc, where Q has a little bit of a hand here in the we all have our parts to play arc, where you go back in time to the 21st century, right before things really go terribly wrong for Earth. And
I also had my fun little monkey wrench at like between the two arcs.
mm-hmm.
Where Dolores stressed herself out to the point of passing out. Yeah, I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah,
Kate's still upset.
that's okay. I got payback for it. But yeah, that
I
whole
made them pay.
well, sort of, but also, I mean, pain by proxy. Um,
Joe's just out here like, oh, you like falling on the ground? Coxgun.
don't fucking at me, Lucas.
You know what? That perfectly encapsulates
Am I wrong?
Joe's DMing style.
No, that's not wrong. But how dare you? But
No,
I
how
also
dare
wanted
you,
to-
sir?
But I did want to lean into the fact that they're like going into that strange space did have consequences for Jaloran because of like the particular traits that she has that she's carrying around.
Yep.
So like going to a weird place like that and then coming back and then having to deal with all kinds of the higher ups later, like yeah, that's pretty stressful for her even if she's not showing it.
well, yeah, she
Until
was
she-
just in like Starfleet command debriefs for like 72 plus hours. That's gonna be.
Gross.
I can be in like a workplace meeting for like an hour, and by the end of it, it's like that was so fucking tiring. Never again.
But then you throw on top of that the fact that like her particular traits being thrown into a completely different space like that. She'd had no way to figure out there was something really wrong until she tipped over the edge.
hmm
She didn't realize she was going to react that way to it.
Yeah, and also like you didn't get time to figure out what was gonna happen. You basically
Mhm.
went right into debriefs with like higher ups, and part of it, I mean, with like Starfleet Command, which means you're dealing with 4 and 5-star admirals a lot of the times with something as messy and potentially threatening as this. Because as of right now, I mean, it changed from 17 to 16, but as of right now, there are still 16, like, I'm just gonna call them schisms for the time being because you don't know the actual name yet. The 16 schisms still that potentially are impersonating Starfleet officers, which is worrying. But you weren't given like reprieve after you got back because it's like the longer you wait, the worse it's gonna be. So you have to go right away.
Mm-hmm. And it was also a good opportunity to introduce some of the other characters to like, oh, hey, this is Jaloran's family and some of where she comes from.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she's a person and not just a figurehead.
Yeah, that episode with with Jaloran passing out was a wake up call to Higgs. Like, oh, Jaloran's not invincible. Oh, I have to do my job. I can't just be the crazy pilot. I have to do my job.
Wait, what is my job? Oh, right.
Right, I'm this team's senior field op. But the
They handled it so well.
Yeah, I would say one of the things too is with that whole thing, and then having Q be involved. Like Q is always one of those characters where he is annoying as fuck whenever you're dealing with him, but there's never, well, unless it's the case of Voyager, but there's never not a reason for him to be there, really. In the case of Voyager, he was there mainly just to be a fucking nuisance and piss off Janeway, like every time he was there.
Pretty much.
But like but in like the TNG, in Picard's case, with how many interactions they had with Q, like, and as annoyed as Picard was at every end of that, like, even if Picard didn't pick up on it, like, we as the audience picks up on it, that there's like a symbolism or a lesson or something within there that is to be gained from that. Which is its own, that's kind of how Q operates. I've noticed in like, I guess yeah, I don't know how he'll be in if and when they ever get a chance to film or shoot Star Trek Legacy. Hey, Paramount. Yeah, pay your creatives, you fuckers. Um, but all of that type of
Oh
stuff.
yeah, writers deserve livable wage, and
Writers,
people who want to
actors.
use AI for like background characters can eat their own laptops, like entire laptop. Just you can't even break it in pieces. Just shove your entire fucking laptop into your mouth and then just shit it out entirely. I hope you're suffering as much as possible. Thank you.
Ugh.
We like our writers and our creatives. We don't like AI, and that will be a thing forever. But yeah, just all of that stuff, and then you know, putting your group as the catalyst point for when you know eugenics war and World War III in this world kind of erupts into everything, being like these are the titular figures that matter for this, and they do records which show that they have to die. However, and that was part of it, was like making sure that you as a group had to wrestle with the idea of like, how do we get around this? Because history says they're dead, which puts you in an awkward spot of like, well, do we have to make a choice here? But you ended up finding an answer down the middle, which helped.
Well, it's interesting because I just remembered some of the like end of the previous arc was the beginning of like Alex starting to act a little less like the I feel like Alec is very much informed um by like Captain Kirk in a way, but not as like, oh, he's I idolize him because he embodies the heart of Starfleet and the core of, but more in terms of like I feel like I like to imagine that the stuff that is recorded about Kirk's adventures um, often ends up getting repeated in like to the up and coming Academy students as like all of the like as basically the space cowboy, right? Like is kind of how I imagine a lot of academies up and coming Academy students picture Kirk, and like none of the like more hard hitting moments,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like the previous arc, and then especially kind of solidifying in this arc, was Alex transition from like going from wanting his Starfleet experience to be more like what he imagines Kirk's adventures to be like, and going instead into like, oh shit, this is real with real stakes. Like it's sort of a be careful what you wish for situation, because
Mm-hmm.
like I in this one I challenged a
Oh
value, and
yeah.
that value was
Yes.
like looking for adventure, right? But I think this was the like this and also the previous arc where like all the experimentation was being done on that like whole station was the first time when Alec really actually genuinely thought about what that means. Adventure often has dire consequences, and like that's like the more exciting things are, the more dangerous they are, and I think this was kind of the culmination of that, where I actually I think Alec was genuinely scared at the end there when like the firefight erupted and there was a real chance of people dying and like his crew dying. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where that like challenging of that value came in. It was a little bit overkill in that moment, where he was like punching out the one of these aliens, but like it was a little bit overkill in that situation. But I think it reflects kind of how Alec was feeling in that moment. Like it was genuine fear, and he was ready to do something incredibly desperate.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind like you said, it's kind of like the be careful what you wish for thing, but it's kind of not because of like oh, you might not get what you wanted. It's more of like the whole genie thing of like, no, you're gonna get exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
like,
I love that so much. I feel like Alec and Kavai have a lot in common in terms of like wanting to be more like their heroes and stuff. But Kavai goes in it completely the opposite direction and does not live in reality.
Wait, I'm curious what you mean by that.
Well, for that whole arc, Kavai had like I don't know how much I want to. Okay, they definitely heard all of the Q stories and didn't think for a second that they would like have any actual trouble. I think they had total faith that, oh, we're gonna be fine because Q is here. This is fucking nuts. And I think they definitely felt like they were like bulletproof, I guess, is the way I can put it.
Interesting.
That's
I honestly still can't get over the raw excitement that Silver expressed when Q appeared. I was like, man.
All I lost my dang mind. I was so hype. I love this game.
Well, it wasn't so much that
I was like,
they lost their
damn.
mind. Yeah, it wasn't so much they lost their mind at that time. There was a bit of a delayed reaction there, which made it even better.
there was a
It
good.
took a little bit for people to realize.
Mhm. It was.
Which oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those, and also it's one of those things where I didn't have to see anyone's facial expression, especially like Lisa's like response to the whole like.
I'm a left person when I need to be.
Well, but like I mean in terms of like the whole Kavai believing, she's bulletproof in that situation, where I can hear the like internal monologue of like Kavai being like, I'll be fine, and the player going like, you are not bulletproof. Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah. She's so dumb.
Kawai getting on one knee. Is it me or did the atmosphere just become godly all of a sudden?
I wanted to flirt with Q so fucking badly. I was reining myself in it.
God, I would.
Single fucking moment.
Joe, bring Q back so
I would
Kavai can flirt
actually
with
pay to see that.
Well, interestingly enough, minor spoiler for the second season and leading in, someone still has a lesson to learn.
True.
The spoiler for the second season, someone is gonna date Q. Who is it gonna be? Doki Doki Literature Club song starts playing.
Oh my god. Okay. Let's real talk. We have to talk after this.
Surprise! It's a dating game show. Meet our contestants.
Anyways.
Oh my god. Fucking Bachelor of I can't even.
Okay.
Dates. The final frontier.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. Well then. Let's get the little standalone after you all get back. An evening beneath the stars, where I kind of let you all just sort of do your own thing, to where you as a group finally had your own, like, kind of were able to do your own thing. And we had a smaller group for that one because Zaz's work schedule had not aligned itself, and I believe Lucas was absent for that one.
It was my birthday.
Right, that was
birthday.
But right, because the next week I ambushed you with that. Yep. But yeah, A Night Beneath the Stars was one of those things where I kind of just let you guys go, and it's like, all right, what are you guys gonna do? On your, your first time intelligence completely off. There's no missions or anything. And it was more of a character building episode. And one of the things that really I found interesting, I suppose, was I guess Tate's kind of mental break, which I found an interesting choice. If that was something that you, Slay, had thought about for a while, or if that just kind of ambushed you as well.
Well, it was a combination of a couple things. One, I knew that Tate had just gotten the Hometon yet not too long before the show started, not too long before session 0, and it was under really bad circumstances. Like I talked about it a little bit in that episode, but it was not under ideal circumstances.
No.
And so Tate hadn't understood how to deal with that, and like they were fine at first, but it's kind of like one of those delayed reaction things where like while things were going and going, Tate was fine, but once they had minutes to themselves, like everything just started piling up.
Mm-hmm.
And
God, I can relate to that so hard.
Yeah. So that's, and I also thought when it came to me, I can't just have Tate building ships. I have to have something like happen. I'm like, oh, I can do that.
And
So
it definitely made sense in the moment. And something that was really interesting is the internal debate you had with yourself that I think you rolled for it too, which was like,
Yeah, you flipped a coin.
do you contact your mom or do you contact your Lauren? And
yeah,
had
and I
you
rolled
done one or
Jaloran.
and had it been the other, the conversation would have been, I would say, in the
Did
end,
you
way
contact
more
your parents
mentally
or your parole
damaging.
officer?
Yeah.
Sorry, what'd you say, Joe?
Had it not been Jaloran, I think the conversation would have been like, it would have been like putting a band-aid on it. It wouldn't have been like trying to like fix it that much as Jaloran put stock into like, helping you through that. And I mean, Jaloran only kind of helped you through it, and truly it was one of Jaloran, I think that's one of Jaloran's strengths, is guiding towards the answer that you need or the beginnings of that answer, but she's never going to straight up like help you in that moment because it's unhelpful if you become dependent on that.
Yeah, that really helped Tate out quite a bit. Yeah, Tate was not doing well, and like there have been mentions in that episode of like certain steps being skipped with Tate.
Yeah, a lot of them actually.
Yeah, most steps being
the Trill Society would actually have quite a few pointed words.
Yeah. So I kind of it's like you have a being. I kind of was like you have a being with with several lifetimes with the memories inside them. That's inside you now. I was like, how does your brain cope with that? Not well.
Nope.
I mean, Tate did for a little while, but like I said, it was sort of like when they had a chance to breathe.
It's kind of like an adrenaline rush, right? Where you have enough going to keep going, and then once it wears off, it's over. You're tired.
Yeah.
You're sleepy.
Yeah, part of the reason Tate was doing the ships in the first place is because it's usually calmed him down. But I decided that doing the ships was kind of what put him in the zone to have that freak out in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just like it let their brain let go, which in normal cases is okay, but when you have lifetimes worth of memories in your head, it's not necessarily a good thing when you don't know how to deal with them yet.
That's understandable. On the flip side of that, just a little across town within Madrid, there let's see, what was it? Right. Kavai and Loris had a movie night of just watching Studio Ghibli, I guess.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
there was
date nights,
no
so
improvement,
much
character
improvement.
development on that one.
It was fun though.
I don't know. I think it helped. Like, I think like because it's very clear that Kavai and at the time Ensign Loris are like the youngest out of the group for the most part. Um, it helps form that sort of like friendship, I think. And then the small little diner afterwards where uh everyone kind of had a meal before the Utopia Planitia attack happened live throughout all of Earth and nearby Federation worlds, and that's why I'm gonna leave here in a second. Before we go on 10 minutes, but I want to ask the people present who were for that. I had mentioned in session zeros and stuff that was something that would be prevalent in the season and would show up. Um, was your reaction something that was your reaction something that you expected it to be from the characters, or was it a lot more heavy than you realized it was going to be for you?
This was one of the few times where Tate's reaction was exactly what I expected. Because Tate's mother was stationed there, and Tate was scared that their mother would die.
Mm.
So I knew Tate wouldn't have the best of reactions to that. And I was like, oh no, this makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that
It
makes
takes a
sense.
lot to shake Dr. Atherton.
That's why we bought a shaker.
Apparently,
I'm
a
not
salt
gonna pretend
shaker.
that I'm not gonna pretend that she was like, 100%, yep, day is a normal ass Wednesday, but at the end of the day, they have feared for their life more than they did during the Utopia Planitia attack.
Okay. Um, I think something that God, who was it that said it? It was either Mira or Kavai that said it like before we ended the episode for that one. And I don't remember which one of the two of you said it, but one of you said this isn't supposed to happen here.
I think that was me.
And
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
goodbye.
and that like after I heard that line drop, it's like
We're supposed
that
to be
was
better.
yeah, yeah. And it was a good place to end because I felt like that was just such a good spot to like beat to end on. It's just because the Utopia Planitia attack was something that just realistically in that century was just so like mind-boggling. Something that close to home shouldn't have happened, and it did, and it incurred a massive number of casualties.
Not to start like Clary posting on Maine. I'm sorry, but I do think it was really fun that was when I got to rejoin because I felt like that was a good example of Clary's unflappable nature.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
Needed that.
when we return, we will jump into the last half of the season, and where stuff gets a little more
Real.
real, yeah. But we will be back in 10, so some of us can stretch, grab water. I encourage that you all do the same. But we'll be back in 10. Anyways, okay, welcome
You
back.
gotta be on some sort of crap. Okay.
we're-
Hi.
Yes, I got it. um,
Just the
I
hard.
didn't
What was
say it.
the,
I didn't.
that was just fully little just handbrake turn off a cliff. That was.
oh my god.
Did it just be, or we got worse about coming back after break? And we got worse
I
at
mean,
coming back after break.
well, I mean, it's not
We're
game.
at least good at keeping time.
Listen, we're good at keeping time. Anything else, we fucking suck at. But
Good save, little. Good save.
You just didn't. You
I can
just
see you
didn't
pulling the
warn
emergency
us
brake on
even
that.
with a word. You're just like, yeah.
there were two options:
I was surprised.
gas
I saw
pedal
your
or brake
face
pedal,
flash
and
on
you
the
chose
screen. I was like,
gas pedal into the cliffside.
I can see you pulling the emergency brake at the last minute. That was
listen,
amazing.
Okay.
listen. If I'm gonna explode, I'm gonna explode in a like collar.
Anyways, we're gonna get back on track. Hopefully, wow. Anyways,
I know that we're trying to move on and get back to the Q&A, but I really cannot emphasize this enough. How like truly incredible. I don't think I've ever seen a more like organically. I mean, a better example of like the bailout in the middle of a sentence.
I don't
Like
think
that was.
and guess what?
Yeah, you didn't just pull the emergency brake. You jumped out of the damn car.
Who
Tuck
said it
and
was
roll, little tuck and roll.
Who said it was a
I was
car?
just thinking, you know that one. Well, actually, speaking of cars, you know that one scene at the beginning of the 2009 Star Trek movie?
Oh,
God,
yeah,
yes.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yes.
That is
Hanging off the
exactly what
cliff
this
while the
was.
car goes over. Yeah.
Explodes.
Oh my god.
Okay, we're on task. We don't ever get off task. Right.
Lies and slander.
It's definitely lies. For our penultimate arc, the Ad Astra Perispera arc, which by the way is I came up with that first, so you Paramount. But
That said, great episode of Strange New Worlds. Fucking incredible episode.
yes, it was a God, I hope they keep nailing it with that series.
Yeah.
But anyways, right, with that arc, that was also just an arc of kind of just I didn't really have a plan for it very much, except small little footnotes of things, and I just let you guys react. This is also the point when Zaz can finally come back, because work made that fucking impossible. But I suppose, are there any... This is one of those ones where I was more reactive than active, so if you have questions for each other or myself as the GM, have at. I feel like this is kind of where we'll do a little bit more freeform because this is kind of the arc to do it before we jump into the final one.
I have a question for Zaz.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned to me off stream that you wanted to have a conversation with Tate, but we never got to. What would you have asked them? Or talk to them?
I did kind of like offhandedly mention how Clarice's opinion has changed towards Tate in the session 0 versus when she actually met them properly at the beginning of her turn in the campaign. She really just wants to know how Tate feels. Like she wants to get a gauge on Tate's self-esteem, basically. She wants to know how much Tate is under the sway of this admiral mother of theirs, and how much of their opinion making is actually their own, because she didn't really get to see that earlier in the campaign.
Oh yeah.
She's seen hints of it now, but she is very impressed by Tate, and she fears that the parts of Tate she is impressed by are just your mom, basically.
I mean, knowing what I know about Dr. Atherton, that might be true.
It might be.
Knowing what I know about Tate, yeah, this arc and the one after this kind of shows a little bit of Tate's dark side to an extent, which is definitely kind of influenced by their mom.
And it's not necessarily just it is more the fact that you were able to hold your ground and less the choices themselves, although she didn't really disapprove of any of Tate's choices, at least so far.
Yeah.
It was more she appreciated some. I'm about to say this, and it's going to sound kind of inflammatory, and I apologize above board, but in character, Atherton is less than impressed by what she views as like a more wish-washy commander versus a more like solid EXO, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Because she just started coming in on Utopia Planitia, where Jaloran basically immediately says fuck the Admiralty.
Fuck the police!
I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. Like, Clarice's first major interaction with Jaloran as a boss is her disobeying her superiors. So, that is certainly a first impression to be left with.
Very, very interesting.
Well, Atherton was around for persons of interest, so really Ad Astra was second.
Atherton wasn't around for person of interest.
She was there.
The episode
she was
that I
there
wasn't
brief.
there, so the first one, right?
Yeah.
I was there for
was-
episode 0. That was it.
She was there for episode 0.
No, I've got her. I've got her written down for episode 1 too. And then after that
Yeah, then after
was
that,
the work prep.
yeah, work got complicated.
I'll have to check.
So there was a little bit in that very first episode of Atherton being able to see some of Jaloran's command style, but probably not enough to form a solid judgment.
Yeah, and I really like Jaloran. I'm always worried when my character doesn't get along well with another character on first impression, so I do want to say I like Jaloran a lot. Atherton is kind of an unholy demon lady.
Yeah, and it's tough to get through a huge gap like that, where you've got this little bit of interaction mission, and then suddenly gone for so many weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's also because Clary was missing for so long, and we didn't really get to see anything about her character wise. Like, she's still very much with her early game. She's still a very static character. She is still very much somebody who has been influenced by her backstory that I can't really share on air, but the rest of you know a little bit about, and the society that she comes from sort of leads her to want to prefer a more imposing leader.
Yeah, and by this point there's been some revelations as far as like there's more going on with Jaloran than what it first appears, particularly like deeper back history.
And then you had to pull
Atherton
out
and Atherton completely missed that, so like going after the Ross and doing something unexpected, that would certainly come out of left field for Atherton.
So I think the TLDR is the conversation with Tate was, I need political. I need to know people's political stances. Stat.
Atherton should not have social media.
Oh, Atherton would be obsessed with Twitter.
That's a
Luckily, this is
horrifying thought.
You mean with
Luckily, the Federation is theoretically a utopian society, so therefore social media cannot exist.
We
You're
only have a
spared
bunch of
from the
aqua
angry
bags that we're gonna
blood
punch.
next
DMs.
section generation? Elon Musk woke up from his induced slumber of 1,000 years.
Wow,
And
that's
he's
Ooh.
back taking over social media.
I'm gonna be a billionaire.
Are we gonna
How?
take him
This is
to
a post.
Taco
There's
Bell?
no money here.
I'll just start holding gold latinum. Why? Only the Ferengi use it.
Elon Musk.
I'm
is
just
basically
gonna
Ferengi.
buy a planet.
That can't be right, Lucas. There's no way Elon Musk is a Ferengi. Ferengi are business smart. He's not.
I had a
Good point.
question.
They also follow rules. Their own, but still.
They're still there.
They're still there. There's still rules. They still follow them. They may change from time to time, but they still follow their own rules. He doesn't follow any of his.
Zaz, did you say you had a question?
Yeah, sorry. This is more just like a personal curiosity thing. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, and it's kind of the like it could be the entire campaign, not just the second half. But I just wanted to know what everybody's like favorite character moment from another player character was.
Yes, that is a good question.
Kavai's whole going crazy on the last mission. I particularly liked what she did in like the second to last episode with those captives. I was like, "Whoa, you're making a choice," and I respect it.
It is
Yeah, that
also
shocked me too.
Sorry for enabling that.
no, but it. I mean, I definitely know. What was? Let's see here. Because I think everyone has like a favorite moment for sure.
I think
What's yours?
one of mine is I really liked Mira grappling with the whole like I'm gonna be a lieutenant now. I'm gonna be the chief medical officer. I think that was like that whole. It wasn't exactly like one moment, but it was just like that whole thing of like Mira trying to figure out whether that was even what she wanted to do or whether she was ready or whatever. I think that was like one of my favorite things.
String
Yeah, that
of
was good.
moments. Yeah.
Is that even done? I kind of got the feeling that was just starting.
I mean,
Well,
she made the decision.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but more like imposter syndrome type is what I'm worried about.
We could
It's
certainly string that imposter
totally
syndrome
big.
along in next season.
A little bit. The thing is, the action started, and they had to kidnap Kawai. They had to save her from burning building. You know, normal hero shit. So there was no time to think about replacing your very awesome teacher who you didn't yet manage to save. So yeah, that's gonna be a an issue, like a mental issue, but that's fine. That's fine. It can't be like that bad. Like how much can it? If she just goes on life-threatening missions like every other week, that's gonna be forgotten, I guess, at some point.
Just bottle it up, Mira. It'll all be fine. Repress everything.
Yeah,
We'll worry about the volcano later.
She's been doing like kind of the same thing, just not specifically forgetting or repressing, just like doing some other shit, and you know, with time, everything kind of dulls, and there we go.
That definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
It got sad. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I think my favorite moment was definitely Jaloran's cliffhanger of like passing out because that kicked off so much. I know we talked about it earlier, but like, I don't know, man. It was just real good. Also made Kavai realize like they had more in common than first brush, and she had a lot more respect for her after that. Doesn't have the best way of showing it. She's a backsliding little dumbass, but you know.
That's
That was
a way of putting it, I guess.
I love Kavai, but she's so dumb. Affectionate.
Kawaii is adorable. Just such a lovely.
I really love being able to learn more about all of y'all's characters, just because I feel like we've got a really good group here, and it's just been a delight.
Right. Just I'm gonna take us out for a second, just a little bit. That doesn't have to pertain. It was the setup process. That all of you as audience members are gonna find absolutely fucking hilarious. So when I did an application process for this because I wanted to vet players and make sure they would be a good fit and would blend well with everyone. And amazingly, I think Lucas was the first applicant before everything else just came in.
I took my sweet time too because I wasn't sure I could commit to it, so that says a lot.
Mm-hmm. But
I was
Same fear.
yeah.
And it proved true.
But doing the application process, and for those of you who know Star Trek and all of its themes, one of the application processes that just, oh God, it is so fucking wild to me because I believe one of them was like, what do you want to see in a game? What don't you want to see in a game? So I can like, get a feel for the player and how they're playing. And I had a lot of applications, a surprising amount that I had to work through. I had 82.
Wow.
Damn, I didn't realize it was that much.
I also posted on the
more now. I don't believe in luck, but I feel like I lucked into this shit.
the other part of it was I posted on like the Modifius channel too for stuff, so that helped and all the other places. But in addition to that, it helped. The application process is very important. And for like stream games that I look for people now, I'm gonna do that more because certain people will give like one-word answers, and if people give one-word answers, I immediately go out of the runnings because that doesn't tell me shit, and that means you don't care. But one of them will hold a special place in my brain and will come into my brain rent-free from now to eternity. One of the applicants, one of the things they disliked in their games was any sort of political narrative.
Holy shit.
Oh,
That's gotta be impossible to have. You can't work with someone like that.
You gotta hold on. I'm so curious about what the hell they meant. Because do they mean politics as in like the actual meaning of the word, or do they mean politics as in like politics that they don't, in the same way that people who like people putting too much politics in video games these days, right? Like which
I think this is somebody who genuinely watched that one Star Trek episode where the people were like half black and half white and thought it was just like there was no subtext.
It was just one of those ones where I was just sitting there as like, did you even see the title of what the game is?
You can't have that in Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek is political. It just is.
It inherently it has its own little
baked in.
Mm-hmm.
This is Star Trek Intelligence. I believe you were looking for a Star Trek Rudy Tooty Loot and Shooty.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, imagine the freaking,
That just
I don't know, just
Firefly?
regular magical D&D game, and someone is like, I don't want magic in there.
Well, but that's the thing though. With like I feel like any decent GM in any type of game, there's going to be a little bit of like social, economical, or political narrative in the game. And that doesn't mean per se the players have to directly interact with them, but it should be in there. Because at the very least, at least in my goals, whenever I've run for newer players, whenever I do, I add those themes. Not because I want them to interact with it necessarily intentionally, but I want them to take away from it and go, at least think about it. Because if they think about it, then I've achieved my goal. If they think about it a little bit, it means like they're putting a little bit of critical thinking into going like, huh, yeah, that's a little fucked. I don't, or maybe they're taking a different message away, but at least they're interacting with it, even subconsciously, because those type of narratives are important, especially in a modern society, since we have people who don't seem to understand, neurodivergence and something really simple to understand that people, I don't know why people can't understand them. Pronouns, they're so easy. But so many people are so fucking resistant to them, and I do not fucking understand why.
I feel like I've said similar stuff
Well,
about like
because
my games.
you gotta
It's like,
resist something, I guess.
yeah,
Oh,
I've said
sorry.
similar stuff about my games though, like where so one of the major like hot button issues in TTRPG stuff is like the inclusion of like fantasy racism or slavery. And I will say, and at the risk of sounding well, however I sound, but like the I will say I am not automatically against the inclusion of those things in a game. What I will say is this, that if you put those in your games, and I'll honestly, I will say I'm usually in the camp personally of not putting them in because this is really hard to pull off. But if you put them in your games, it should be basically like what you were just talking about, Joe, and put into the game in a way that it kind of like forces the players in the game to engage with it in some way, not necessarily directly as like, oh, we're going to take down slavery, right? But like forces their characters to develop an opinion about it and like to actually think about it for a second, right? As opposed to just sort of which to like the way I would never do it, which is I think the damaging way, just putting it in there with no intent whatsoever, no thought, just like I think this is a cool setting detail. Like, don't fucking do that. Like, make a point, or like make it something that like should be engaged with. But that's a hard line to walk, and so that's why personally I wouldn't do it, because I don't trust myself enough to like walk that line particularly well. So like, yeah, but you're right. Like some of those things, that there are some things that like you put into a game because not because you want players to interact with them necessarily, but because you want it to be part of the like part of the players engaging with a setting to a certain extent, and also an actual issue in real life, right? With
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think part of it is too, like, if you. Part of it is, I know, like, TTRPGs are a form of escapism. They just are.
Mhm.
But the other thing is, you shouldn't, like, if there is no, like, adversity in a game, then you kind of do your players and your world a slight disservice. That's not to say to, like, do that carelessly, and especially if you want to dive into those deeper issues, and if your players are fine with that, then have that. But that is something that you, especially, should discuss in a session zero or multiple session zeros, because you
Mhm.
want to make sure if you're gonna do something like that, you nail that right. Because if you don't, the message comes off really bad.
Yep.
But it's like not like on the more somebody who's terrified of DMing and is mostly a player, but is also a big queer lesbian. Like it is how do I phrase this? It is sometimes very cathartic to when you are
Oh,
making
boy.
a character add homophobia or transphobia or something like that to the character's backstory because it is something that you go through in your everyday life. It's not like it's weird to never write about it, you know?
I come at it from
Yeah.
the angle of there's a difference between trying to represent something realistically and trying to have it as flavor because it's realistic. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, that does make sense.
And no, I do get what you mean,
Yeah.
but it's like
Like I definitely agree with you.
for several of my I don't want to get into specifics because some of them have depressing ass backstories that we don't need to get into right now. But like for several of my characters, it's like the character was sort of built around like that, like they are who they are because they were raised in a homophobic household or XYZ. And I feel like because that is something that affects people, like it's not something that can be like completely ignored in a setting.
Either necessarily. Right. It depends on the type of game you're playing. It depends on the type of people you're playing with. I think there's definitely always room to explore that sort of stuff, especially in a relatively safe space.
Yep, that's
absolutely.
I think the best way to sum up what I was trying to say before, which was kind of a big mess of words, is basically like if you're going to include this stuff in your games, I think it matters that you do it thoughtfully and not just offhandedly and randomly.
Mm-hmm.
So
you gotta put a lot of thought into that. You can't just throw that in there.
Yeah. Like I definitely don't think I exist in the camp of like never do this or always do this, but like because I think that the context certainly matters. Yeah. And like Silver was just saying, like sometimes there's instances where you have to kind of go based on like the group or the type of game you're playing or whatever everybody at the table is comfortable with, that kind of stuff. But if you kind of have gone through all those things and you're going to include stuff like that in your setting, I think you can't, or in your backstory, your personal backstory, it's important to sort of do it thoughtfully and with purpose and not just as an offhanded like, oh, this exists because it existed in the real world. The end. No more thoughts. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it definitely needs to tie thematically into like I guess something that I didn't mention that is pertinent is that like a lot of my characters deal with deception and like illusion, like denial of their own personality is a strong theme across a lot of my characters.
Really?
And that usually plays into having been raised in a household that is like it's usually a thematic thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm trying to get at.
Absolutely.
Like it is hard when there are a lot of it is hard when people are afraid to approach the topic because they don't want to do it poorly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes you should be allowed to fuck up a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you should be allowed
intent and stuff too. Like as long as people are open and have that dialogue going and like there's horror stories everywhere of things going wrong and off the rails. But I think again, as long as you have session 0, as long as you guys like keep open dialogues, I think having a card system is always helpful.
Yeah.
There's nuance to everything, and more people need to be willing to have open dialogues.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the reason I chose Trill for Tate is because Trill are kind of like a trans metaphor.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm trans, so I was just like, I'm gonna sprinkle this in.
Yeah. The what was the right? But for all of that tangent and everything, that application was just beyond wild to me because it was just like, what are you doing here then?
Oh yeah, did we ever get Lynn's favorite other character moment?
No.
I don't think we got you or yours, Joe. You don't really have an own character, so you get pick of the litter.
I know what mine is.
Come on, yes. Pick your favorite child. Who is your favorite child?
We all know it's you.
Aw, thank
But-
you.
Aurelia,
Of
she's
course.
cute.
Yeah.
But as for me, I don't have anyone particular. I think a lot of these moments, like, have been, um, it's just been amazing to watch these characters develop. And so it's like, I have a hard time with one, but one of the things that I loved was being able to string along the pancake joke. The fact that
Oh,
we
yeah.
kept popcorning that around and stringing it along in unexpected moments, I think to be my favorite.
Okay.
I
Hmm.
I can't believe it just pancakes became such a big thing all of a
It was
sudden.
such a random, offhanded thing too, and then it just sort of stuck
Yes.
around.
Yep.
And
It's really.
it all started in like our first episode.
It's also really funny too with the whole pancakes thing because like where your base of operations not a common staple food. But as for my favorite character moment, we'll leap into that in a moment because it does come up. But overall, the whole like Ross and all of those like things, and then getting into the mission, which we'll segue into, is the trouble with morals type of arc where it's the deep cover mission on Orion, and all of you are really put to the test, and Vice Admiral Michiel is involved a lot more, and you got to meet her more as a character, and I think most of you decidedly did not like her. But that kind of goes to show, and then
We don't love her. Also, though, you gotta have someone you love to hate.
that's true.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
I
that,
designed
So
her to be
absolutely
that way.
despicable.
yeah, oh yeah.
You did your job well.
Let's see, what was the thing out of this? Right. With all those missions stuff and something so deep cover going and something that was going to take 64 days to complete as far as a mission. Interestingly enough, to start with Kavai, did you anticipate her to totally, like, right from the start, just absolutely derail the op, like, right from the get-go?
Yeah, no. I can't predict anything Kawhi is going to do, ever. I have ideas of what I want them to do and to be better, and then they don't. But I think it's really fun to explore characters making deliberately bad decisions.
I do think that's fascinating too, is just like, and then the different concepts too, right? Where this is a mission that you were given by Tate's mom. And what's really interesting about that, I think, is the more you went into it, the more you realize this is a career push for her. It's not really for any of you.
I think that's what like made her go hard against it even more, is because she was like, "This isn't right. Fuck this shit. I know at least of two people that are a bigger problem here. Fuck it."
And the fact that Admiral Meal is willing to put Tate in danger because for her career push, like their own child too. Her own
Yeah, real
child.
cool.
Yeah, like
Oh my god, that made Kavai so fucking
Yeah.
good.
so, the line I gave Joe about how to play Admiral Meal was basically think of a parent who always wanted a gold medal, so they raised their kid to get one.
Oh,
That-
yeah, that makes total sense. Or like a
Mhm.
goddamn co-parent or something. Ugh.
Yeah,
I
that's Admiral Bill.
See
Would
also
she be a pageant mom?
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Same brain cell,
Holy shit,
same
that's a
brain
high
cell moment.
bar.
Oh my god.
Incredible.
I think ironically, Admiral Mill will look
Oh
at
my
pageant
God.
bonds with derision. without realizing that she is
Oh,
one.
she absolutely would. Fucking bitch.
I mean, you
Oh,
don't get to that point without a certain lack of self-awareness. So,
Oh my
yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. It really highlights that
What
too.
a tough one.
Where and then because Kavai did that, like the future plan was, fucking just,
Yeah,
huh.
I felt a little bad about that.
The future plan ended up just being like, oh no, we cannot, under any circumstances, like Kavai, know that we are on the ground with her.
Because he kept dodging Tate
Yeah.
Tate was a bad cold.
Yeah.
He kept
He just,
dodging Tate like COVID.
there's something about like the way I played it once I realized, because I didn't think we were ever going to touch on any of Kavai's shit at all. So that blindsided me as a player. And because of that, I realized their reaction was more or less like, you know how you have those like group of friends that you knew in high school drifted apart, but if you ever get back into contact with them, you kind of revert a little bit?
Yep.
Yes.
It's fucking that, but on like a global scale.
Global scale is an alarming term, but okay.
Interesting term.
Tate was on the verge of challenging her value this arc.
Oh no.
If we to let people in on it a little bit, if it came to the point where we had to where the play would have been Kavai staying or Kavai having to sacrifice Kavai in some way, Tate would have challenged their value. The people must be protected at all costs.
Oh shit.
Oof.
Tate would have challenged that value because Tate has that value right now. And it's kind of a value they got from their mother a little bit, though their mother obviously doesn't share the exact same value. But
Nope.
I have a related question to the previous one, which might play into the conversation about this arc, but it also might not. But we talked about what everybody's favorite character moment for another player was. What about what your favorite is for your own?
Ooh. I mean, it's kind of hard not to say challenging a value as one. I as a player did not want to do that, but I had to do what was right for my character. I'm still even on my back end going, how do I get my original value back? I do not like characters who are antagonistic like this. Kavai, calm the fuck down.
Kavai's
I'm
player
sorry.
just side-eyeing Kavai like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yep, I love her, but she's inherently selfish, and it's been interesting to play a character who I, as a player, am aware of their behavior. As someone who has gone through not even remotely similar issues, but having that struggle of being self-aware, it's interesting and it's fun, and I wish she would stop being a dumbass. But it's
for
also
me,
really good.
sorry,
No,
I
go.
keep interrupting people.
No,
I'm sorry. For me, it's actually a little thing. You would think it would be the Tate's breakdown, which I do enjoy. I did like that. But it's a little thing where during this last arc, they sort of fudged the records a little bit to keep to make it look like things were going well, and they weren't. And it was basically them lying to their mom.
That was dope as shit. So proud of you for that.
And that was just like Tate. Beginning of the season, Tate would not have pulled that off. They still didn't pull it off, but they would not have attempted to pull that off. Yeah, so lying to my mom, even though I got caught doing it, which of course she caught me. She's an intelligence admiral. Of course she caught me.
But the fact that you were willing to put the effort in. I'm sorry, Silver. I did really like how Claire was like, I'm landing on Orion to cause problems and be the devil on Kavai's shoulder.
Hell yeah.
That was amazing.
I'm loving everything about where this is all going. It's great.
Zaz, I want you to know that the whole blowing up the car thing, for some reason, I cannot stop picturing it in my head as, like, Dr. Atherton just, like, in sunglasses and a trench coat, just, like, smoking a cigarette, and then just flicking it over their shoulder, and the car blows up.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I pictured it in my head.
Oh my god.
I mean, she does
exactly how I
that, but
pictured
then
it.
she, has to reach into her pocket to actually press the detonator.
Right?
I think I like that even better. Like, oh, that didn't work. Ah, fuck it. Meh.
It's like the whole Heath Ledger Joker hospital moment, like flicking it over and being like,
The only good part of that movie.
That was a brilliant movie. Don't even start.
But
I'm sorry, I was too distracted
just
by
not a
Liam Neeson.
anyways, but yeah, there's that. So then there's your own character personal favorite moments.
So honestly, I can't pick any specific moment because I really like every interaction that she had, every little twist and turn in her development. I can say the moment that kind of got etched into my mind, and it still is there. It lives there rent free. That moment was the first time I was allowed, Mira was allowed to punch people. So way back then, when they were pulled back in time, when Mira was, when I was allowed to roll the dice for the first time to punch two people, that was the exhilaration, the drive.
It's also really funny too
It was special.
because I think a lot of people have this misconception if they've never been there, have never seen, or don't know anyone from there. But if someone is just lying knocked out on the street on like New York City, people will step over or just go around you. They won't ask if you're alright. Most New Yorkers are too busy to care about that.
Busted.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways,
Oh, the second one. I'm sorry. I have to say another one that probably nobody else remembers. That one time when Mira walks out of Jaloran's interrogation. I think it was with her, and there was like a bunch of what were they? Guards, not guards, soldiers, and she just challenged all of them to a
right.
arm wrestling
Yeah, they didn't win.
competition.
Oh, I love that. Great.
But I suppose one of the titular parts of this season that can be discussed is the introduction of what is essentially your group's Kobayashi Maru, this no-win scenario. And that leads into what my favorite moment from the players is Alec basically saying, like, we don't have a win scenario, so let's just make one.
That was actually going to be my answer for my own question, too.
Yeah, that was brilliant, Lucas.
I was just sitting there, honestly, I was just sitting there thinking
all your
about it,
choices
and I was like,
initially, until that point, they sucked. They were bad choices.
What made me think of it, I don't remember who it was, but somebody described the situation as a no-win scenario, and I just sat there and I was like, you changed the conditions of the test. And like that's the thing that made me think of it. I was like, what's the thing that nobody's going to expect us to do? And like Little also, like Mira said, what if we just did something crazy, something that nobody's going to see coming? And like that combined with the, like, whoever said about like the no-win scenario, and it made me start thinking like, okay, so what is the thing that like, and I realized that what we've been doing this whole time is operating covertly in the shadows, just trying to manipulate and pull strings, and like then I realized that's literally what got us into this mess in the first place. And what if we just stopped playing that game? And so like that was kind of that moment. But yeah.
It was an interesting moment. Like that whole briefing like scene was really fascinating because there was a beat of silence because Lynn as Jalorn was like just drawing a blank, could not find a way out, which was just I think that's such a fascinating aspect of like intelligence. If you have been in intelligence long enough, that's all you see. So having a different perspective is always good.
Well, and I think what also helped from like Alec's perspective is that Alec was raised in Starfleet. Like he was raised with the like older, like the ideals of Starfleet from a time when they may very well have, like this is from like a Picard era Starfleet that Alec grew up in, right? So like the ideals of Starfleet were alive and well, and I feel like in this particular era of Star Trek that we've seen in shows and whatnot, we've seen sort of almost an antiquation, whatever,
Antiquated.
of the no, and like the process of it, like an antiquation basically of those ideals.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of decided to kind of just play that out in this instance where it's like Alex still very much believes in that because that's what he grew up in. It's what his parents like taught him. It's what he grew up believing about Starfleet, and and between that and like the stuff that happened with like the ban on synthetic life, those were things that I think had Alec feeling really not great. And then all of a sudden he was presented with an opportunity to like, no, let's be Starfleet.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment because it caught me off guard because my original intention was like, you're intelligent. You have 3 options and they all suck. Which one are you gonna pick? And then getting told.
We just played the wild Uno card.
Yeah. The thing is, like, why spend all this time discussing this thing when we can just attack, I guess. Just hit him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It gives. The thing is, I was only later I realized I was giving up those Luffy punching a celestial dragon vibes. One Piece fans understand. Just
Yes, I
doing
do.
the most unpredictable bullshit. Hell yeah!
And
The most unpredictable bullshit all of a
it
sudden.
worked too. But,
Illegal play.
I mean, it worked,
Sorry.
but there are consequences to your choices, obviously, because you've
Oh yeah.
essentially
of course.
made I would say, a very tentative ally, and you've for sure made an enemy in administration.
Yeah, my enemy's my mother.
Whose isn't? I'm just kidding. I'm so sorry.
I love my mom in real life.
Me too. I don't know why I said that.
Oh my
When your
God.
role play is so strong, you accidentally give yourself mommy issues.
I will
This is
also just
projecting, guys.
I will
This is what it
I will
looks like.
just quickly throw this in there because Joe's answer for that was the same as what mine was going to be. So I'll throw my secondary one in. Was Alex's conversation with his childhood, or not childhood, but academy best friend, Anna.
Yep.
That was, I think, one of my favorite moments because it was like in a because that was during a time when I still wasn't sure if I was going to be able to commit to the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a little bit Joe kind of giving me an out, but I took it instead as an opportunity for Alec to be like, you do not get me, and you never have. It's never stopped us from being friends, but you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And like I thought that like that I think that was like very early on, because that was one of the earliest sessions that like I was in, and that very early on was just a moment of establishing kind of where Alec was at mentally.
That was real good
coming
too.
So like that I think that's I think my second favorite, and I'll just that's the only thing I'll say.
It's also one of those things with like a conversation, because I think we've all had conversations with friends like that, where like you kind of try to help them work through their stuff, and unintentionally you just kind of make it worse, and you're sitting here like, it's kind of one of those things where you say the wrong thing, your foot's in your mouth, and you try
Like,
to
you're
say
trying to
something
help,
to
but you just-
recover it, but you just fuck it up even more.
So real.
It's like, I'm gonna, okay. And, I mean, her, like, she's, from the backstory I was given, she's a very capable officer, but sometimes that comes
All
to
the fucking
detriment
time.
of, I guess, empathetic awareness.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
the
gonna
way I
shut
always
up
looked at
now.
the way I always looked at it was more in terms of like that Alec's friends were very much like the in the academy were the kind of stereotypical Starfleet young officers. They had drive, they had ambition, they had a direction, and Alec just was never any of those things, but like also never talked to his
They
friends about
said
that because
hunger, they devoured.
but like they never talked to them about it because like he never like how would you understand that if you always know like the direction you're heading? How could you possibly understand what somebody is going through when they have no idea what direction they want to head in?
Mm-hmm. And
And
for
like
people like that, I've noticed, like, people who have that drive, they will have that eventual space of, like, I don't know where I'm going, like, I don't know what to do in this situation. And people who have that drive and run into it later, it's always worse for them if they run into
it's
it later.
catastrophic because suddenly you go from knowing exactly what you want to be doing to realizing like that you've put so much time, effort, and energy into doing this thing that maybe actually you don't really want to be doing, but now you don't know how to because you never explored anything else when it was like the prime opportunity to do it, and you don't know what to do. You don't know how to handle that.
Which, I mean, just the final lead in here towards the end here, since we're almost done. The final conversation between Alec and Jaloran, I think, I found that very interesting, and same vein as the talk between Alec and his best friend is like, clearly that's a player insurance policy a little bit too. But it is really interesting because I think, Jaloran had said, because Alec didn't really know what he wanted to be doing, and I think Jaloran said something along the lines of, give it a few months or something like that.
Yeah, that was an earlier conversation, like partway through, and I was like, well, give me like 6 months or something like that. Work with me for 6 months, and then we'll revisit.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing in like an earlier conversation that Jaloran said that really struck me and stuck with me was, and I genuinely don't remember if this was on stream or if it was when you and I talked off stream, Lynn, but I think Jaloran did say it, and it was like something to the effect of, well, it sounds like your previous commanders didn't know what to do with you. And like,
yes, she did say that on stream.
Okay, because like that to me was like so interesting because I think that like Alec had never considered that he wasn't the problem. Like up until that moment, Alec had only ever seen himself as the problem. Like there's something wrong with me. Why can't I be more like my friends? Like why have I never been that way? Clearly there's something wrong with me.
That's such a mood.
fucking relatable ass shit. Oh my god.
But yeah, I think that was like the moment when like, because I think it was in this at the end of the same arc that Alex's issues with authority came up, right? Because
Mhm.
then
Yep.
immediate perfect contrast at the end, suddenly Alec has immediately gained respect for Jaloran in a way that like I think hadn't displayed in the stream thus far towards other authority figures.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. And I
Mhm.
genuinely think it's like looking back on it, it is very much like Alec is now reflexively expecting, like preemptively expecting commanders to just sort of like dismiss him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? That moment is also on my like top fave moments of the streams.
I mean, it's one of those
Mm.
interesting concepts too. Where
Yeah.
it is one of those things where because a lot of people experience that in real life, where everyone's like, "I don't know what to do," so you're someone else's problem. When that, God, I think we see it a lot normally these days.
Surprise! My character is just a giant metaphor for ADHD. Anyway,
Really, really, none of us caught that.
I was worried I was being too subtle about it.
I didn't, but I also have ADHD and I'm a dumbass. So yeah, that makes sense now.
but like all that
Was
is,
it a metaphor? Are you sure?
but yeah, all of that to say
All of my
is
characters have
just
ADHD.
the whole concept of
I'm
like
genuine.
not knowing what to do. And Jaloran also is one of those. I think that was a really, really early conversation that Lynn and I had on. Is like, okay, is Jaloran gonna be more like take, intelligence ops, or is she gonna be a little bit more freeform? And Lynn pretty much said like, no, Jaloran will only join intelligence under these very stringent stipulations that she has 100% control over.
Mhm.
Which she got control over it. That's not to say that, the brass doesn't try and fuck with that every now and again, which, in the final arc, that tried to happen. And I like the clear, like, rivalry that's come from Tate's mom and Jaloran. Like, clearly that's something that needs to be explored further because I think what'll crop from that will be some RP magic because it's very clear that these two do not like each other.
I feel like I gave you a gift when I designed
Good.
Tate's mom.
Very.
Oh yeah, I looked at the little bit of like stuff that I saw and I was like, she's gonna be someone everyone's gonna dislike.
Yeah, and one of the things that we talked about off stream was the fact that if Jaloran had had a typical career track, she would be the same rank as Tate's mom. But she isn't.
She does a
So
lot
it's
of
like you've got
unorthodox things that kind of it's the same reason for like why it took so long for like Kirk to become, an admiral is because he kept doing so much shit that was just like against the grain.
yeah. So it's like when you're talking experience versus experience, so that those two are very much on the same level. They're at two very different ranks.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of plays into it a lot. It's like Jaloran knows she could match Tate's mom for rank. She just chooses not to.
I think it's also the Star Trek and the center chair metaphor, right? Like the moment they take you out of the center chair, you can't really affect active change as much because you're limited in your scope.
Mm-hmm.
But then, that whole conversation at the end between Alec and Jaloran, and then me leaving a cliffhanger because I needed payback, and
Yeah, you shot Jaloran, you bastard.
Who has?
it is totally fine. Someone needs to go back to basics. But that all to say, that is kind of our discussion for Star Trek Intelligence Season 1. I believe, let me check my calendar really quick here. Yes, tentatively, Season 2 will be back on January 13th, because that's a lucky number. But yeah, we'll have Season 2 on January 13th. That's not to say that we won't be doing things in the interim with some of these people or other groups. I'll be working on the Occult Chronicles with a few people, Leah being one of them, and she is always a delight to work with. And also a
Absolutely.
gremlin. But absolutely fun to work with. But yeah, any final little things that y'all want to sign out with before we end the stream? Because intelligence is gonna be off the air for a bit.
I never got to say what Tate's name meant.
Okay.
Yes.
Tatame, the behavior and opinions displayed in public to satisfy society's demands.
Wow.
Wow.
I can also tell you the hone symbiote. The contrast between a person's true feelings and desires, often kept hidden from oneself.
Ooh.
Okay.
I love your brain.
Okay. Well, reminders at the sign out here is everyone has their own platforms in which they are on. Please do visit them. I believe soon-ish. I mean, I'm thinking Tomorrow is Dead is going to show up before Star Trek Intelligence Season 2, so I would pop over
God, I
to
hope so.
Rule.
I will simply pass away if it does not. If it takes that long, I will simply pass away.
But yeah, go check out Tomorrow is Dead Season 2 when that airs. And if it's not out yet, go check out Season 1. It was an emotional roller coaster of psychic damage. But it was a good it's a good experience over there. Risa has their own streams that they do. Not currently, since their computer is currently on electronic life support and is
Yeah.
currently in the process of being resuscitated.
I could, if people are interested, I do occasionally do art on my Discord. I don't usually like to stream that anymore, but I do occasionally, since it's much quieter in my Discord. If anyone's ever interested, you can hang out there. But yeah.
In addition to that, I mean, Little has art commissions, so does Risa. Slay's told you where you can find them. All of us are, around. If you write final little thing, just a couple of you exist, Zaz, but you exist in a void, intentionally so. Internet Enigma is right. But something
Well,
to
everyone they like when people question if they are real.
Are you sure I'm real? Have you ever seen me and Joe in the same room before?
Hmm,
Okay.
that's a good
But
point.
anyways, yeah, a couple things. Again, at the end, just doing this end of season announcement. Twitch Plays D&D will become a thing probably sometime in January, where all of you good people can ruin my life in a watered down version of Tomb of Horrors. I'll probably be doing my own streams every now and again, just, talk a little bit. I'll probably stream a playthrough of Stray Gods by Summerfall Studios, which, God, that voice cast is amazing. But I'll be doing things here and there, and I might be running one-shots here and there. One of them might be thematic for a season. Which one is it? Who knows? but we'll we'll all be doing our own things, but also maybe occasionally unite for some single brain cell chaos. But with all of that, I suppose what we'll do at the end of this really quick, Hugh, is just a quick roundtable of where people can find you, since we're gonna be off the air for a little bit, at least through Star Trek Intelligence.
You can find me at Sons of Warvan on Twitter, and that's pretty much it.
Let's see. You can. I'm pulling it up right now because I don't remember right now. Currently on Twitter, you can find me at Jenk_Hankins. I'm also on Blue Sky now, also as at Jenk Hankins. But yeah, you can find me there too. That's otherwise you can find me over at twitch.tv/Rule of Lore.
Where they'll talk about anything and everything and nothing at the same time. It's impressive.
Yes.
Maybe potentially after the break, I may be slightly more active on the internet. That's all I got.
Okay. Is there anything else? I think we are good to go. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for what has been a project that has numbed my brain in its creation process, but it was a rewarding experience, and we hope to bring more in season 2. And I hope the players are ready to bring a game, because this was an introductory season. Because it's gonna be way tougher. But that's something to look forward to. And we'll see you then. And as always, we hope for this season we've been a healthy dose of R&R. See you later.